Namaskaram everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion. I'm Pooja and I'll be a host for this session. So we have two panelists in our session today, and our panel discussion is on designing training simulations in XR using authoring tools. So first up in our panelists, we have Mr. Arun Vaswani. Arunji is an entrepreneur who mainly focuses on delivering new and innovative products to his clients. More of his background, he has completed his Bachelor of Engineering, Electrical and Electronics Engineering from Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth. His first startup, Lexicon Creations, a multimedia design company, provides web print, online marketing, social media marketing, video, and corporate branding services. With specialization in all these things, digital from website development right to augmented reality, Arunji is the founder and CEO of augmented reality company Augmentistic, which is based in Pune. With her Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics, he has also worked at both Brain Visa and Telegenesis as a graphic designer and web development. So, Arunji, welcome to our panel discussion. It's great to have you here.
Same here.
All right, next up we have Miss Yukti Suri. Yukti ji has completed her BTech Electrical Electronics and Communication from IIT Jabalpur. She did her master's from Heroic Watt University and master's in computer vision and robotics. Previously, she has worked as senior research analyst at High Tech Robotics Systems Limited. Currently, she is working as a senior software architect and tech lead at Ajna. She is also a passionate Unreal instructor. Her specialties are in Unreal Engine development, programming, machine learning, robotics, C++, and Python. Welcome, Yukti ji.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you for taking our time for this session. I hope all of us will get a lot of more insights. So we'll start up with some background of both of our panelists. So this is a question for you, Arunji. Your journey has started from working as a graphic designer for a company to now becoming a founder of an AR/VR company, which is Augmentistic. So it would be great if you could just share your journey of this transition from a graphic designer to a founder now.
So, starting with being a graphic designer and a programmer in web and mobile technologies, there was one of a project in 2000 where I was working on creating a design application for web for greeting cards and other decorative stuff. At that moment is where I first experienced the augmented reality of Hallmark greeting card. That is where the whole journey started off. Through that time, I'm working on understanding and learning new things on augmented reality and providing solutions around it.
Great, great. Now, this is to you, question to Yuki ji. So, if it would be great if you could just tell us about your story, like after completing your master's in computer vision and robotics, how has your journey been so far, and also how your work experience has been till now.
Sure. Thank you, Pooja, for the great and very kind introduction. So I had always had an inclination towards computer vision and robotics. So when I started my career, professional career, I started with um, some great internships with Toshiba Medical Imaging. So medical imaging, robotics, ADAS, which is assistive driver assistance, advanced driver assistance systems. So everything related to cameras, image processing, computer vision, and robotics have been my passion, and I've been fortunate enough to have always continued with the same. I started with a startup in Gurgaon, which was working on general surgical robotics, and I started working there as a robotics engineer, and I was working for remote surgery and related technologies. I switched to advanced driver assistance systems, which are again camera-based vision intelligence systems that can assist drivers as well as driverless cars and vehicles. And then I moved to Mumbai, and I have been very fortunate that I took up XR technology, which is a very natural evolution of the next level of computing and a very great um, tie up of all these technologies, which whether it is AI or computer vision. So I have kind of continued in the same fields in which I have always had the interest in. So yeah, so currently I'm working in the core SDKs for XR technologies, everything related to core technologies like head tracking, hand tracking, eye tracking, object tracking, um, and anything related to core 6DoF and 3DoF based movements and tracking. My team and myself, we are working on innovating something new in that. Yeah.
That's really great to hear it. Now, question to Mr. Arun. How do Playmaker and Blueprints, these tools impact performance? And follow-up question to that is, what are the best practices that creators should follow to ensure smooth simulations?
So related to the playmaker thing, I feel I'm more inclined towards being more writing to code directly rather than using the visual scripting part. I'm not very comfortable using the Playmaker and all. I do use blueprints in Unreal, but Playmaker is not my cup of tea where I use that. I use C Sharp code. It's much more better, much more comfortable working with it, and you have more area and scope to work around it. That's where I feel writing the scripting in C Sharp is much better than Playmaker.
All right, and follow-up question to that is, what are the best practices should creators follow to ensure smooth simulations?
So best practices would be starting up from the scratch itself, writing the complete storyboard, the whole simulation, what it's supposed to be, writing, putting it down on a sketchbook or something, whichever we used to do in animations and all. That is the perfect way to go through the complete storyboard. Then have each and every element and features put in directly, having good test cases around it to test every scenario and features, understanding the complete simulation before you put in the storyboard at least 100 times because you tend to miss out the small things which is required in the simulations. That is much more important to have a smooth simulation.
Yes, rightly said. Now, UTG, Unity's Playmaker and UI's Blueprints, how do these tools actually fit in to the creation of extra training simulations?
I also come from the same school of thought as Arunji said. Yeah, being a bit old school, let's say. So coding is our forte for most of our developers also. But I do understand where the new evolutions in technology are taking us. I would say Unity's Playmaker, it still has a lot to evolve into to be actually more usable. I've seen some use cases in shader programmings. However, we do actually, as a team, use a lot of blueprints in our development. And having used this visual scripting, because Unreal's blueprints have actually incorporated a lot of Unreal Engine's powers inherently. So I would say that the use case of Playmaker and blueprints in their current versions are both for non-programmers as well as for programmers. Now, when I say non-programmers, I mean to say animators, asset creators, and all of these designers, UX designers, UI designers, who would want, otherwise they would be waiting for a developer or an implementer to be ready in their team to implement their ideas, and then only they would know how their designs would fit into an XR, training. If in case there is a standalone animator or a designer who would want to see how their environments might look in certain training scenarios, they can actually do the implementation quite fast without having to go through the syntax knowledge and programming knowledge. By the way, I'm still saying syntax and programming because even with the visual scripting, the logic still has to be built by you. So it is not a replacement of programming. You are actually still programming, but it does make lives easier for non-programmers. But for us, even as programmers, I think they are great tools, especially Unreal Engine's blueprints, if we want to prototype something faster and if we want to do multiple iterations faster. In fact, a good mix of C++ and blueprints in Unreal, that is a great way to go ahead. I think it is very scalable. For Unity, still we use C Sharp a bit more, and for training simulations, because we know inherently the development is quite could be quite tricky and quite complicated, so having some tools to accelerate that development, and especially the POCs, visual scripting could come into play a lot there.
So now that we know a bit about what this industry is, we would like to now switch to the futuristic approach and adaptation of XR. So over to you, Arunji. How AI and machine learning has impacted the like in creating effectiveness of XR training simulations in the near future?
So I believe that AI has a lot of role in XR simulations. Like we have partially tried to work around it, and there are a lot of scope to grow around there. Like we have computer vision analysis for inspection of manufacturing products through HoloLens or some other XR lenses that you can do it, and also having remote inspection applications around it, which could help in AI improving much more, where AI could do all the remote inspections directly through the HoloLens. So these capabilities are there for the futuristic. For medical, I believe there are a lot of capabilities with AI coming into the XR applications and all. So there's a lot of scope of AI getting into this.
Yes. Yukti anything you would like to add to this same question?
Um, about the role of AI, I think I started my introduction with the same that it is a natural, it's a marriage made in heaven when it comes to XR and AI. And that's why AI applications in XR are the way to go. Once you sort out the basics of XR, that your head is being tracked and you can see the environments around you and the assets can be placed somewhere. When you, especially when you go into mixed reality space, whether it is in surveillance industry, whether in an enterprise based industry, whether it is some kind of visual inspection, whether it is some kind of recognition and training, all of these seem to be the best use cases for mixed reality. What do you want to do when you wear a smart glass? You would want to see some advanced information about some things which are there in your real world, and that is where a natural way in which artificial intelligence comes into play, where you would want to understand your spatial surroundings, and you would want to segment them, and then you would want to recognize them and maybe track them, and then put in some virtual overlays and some information on top of that. And that essentially makes an augmented reality to mixed reality. I can actually not not fathom how you can go from augmented reality to mixed reality without having some kind of vision and computer vision and AI in the picture. So whenever you have some kind of spatial understanding, not by you but by the headset itself, that capability is granted by AI. So there are amazing amazing applications where AI can be integrated and must be integrated in XR wearables and wearable technologies. So a lot to do with our training based aspects as well, where you would want to not just do some trainings with some tools. You can pull up some more information as you are in your mixed reality space, and you can even do some kind of intelligent analytics on the trainings that you are performing as a user, how you are doing, how well you are doing, what are the benchmarks, how do you compare against it. So there are a lot of applications there.
So, next question to you is, what do you think, according to you, are the upcoming trends that you see in the context of creating XR training simulations while using Playmaker and Blueprints?
I think I have already discussed quite a bit about the blueprints and Playmaker and visual scripting aspects, how they can actually be used in your development process. As I already said, blueprints are a lot more powerful, and we are already using a lot of it in our development process, and it does reduce the time of development in certain scenarios. However, having said that, they do have to develop a lot more in terms of reaching the capacity where raw programming in itself, wherever you want to optimize your logic and build upon the logic, and sometimes you might feel restricted on that with visual scripting, but they are great tools for prototyping, for iterations, iterating again and again till you reach certain level of we use it a lot for POCs. We use it in a hybrid fashion in the end product as well. we have not really used a lot of Playmaker. We use blueprints a lot for shader programming, and because people who have not yet seen blueprints, if you have it is a part of ACP, we use them a lot in our core structures. The logic building becomes very easy, and when the logic building is like a flow chart and easy to implement, you do not lose focus as a developer in the intricacies of writing the logic, and you focus just on the logic. And sometimes that helps in focusing and building up the logic a lot more, because if you get stuck in some smaller bug in the syntaxes, you lose a lot of time and focus there. So when it comes to as Arunji said about the storyboarding, we do try to incorporate some levels of POCs in our storyboarding itself, so that we can also in a way freeze the modules of the tech stack that we would be using, what assets we would be using. So that helps in the final integration of certain things. So there we use these blueprints quite a bit.
Same question to Arunji.
Yeah, completely agree with Yupti. A lot of things also, since we have mentioned of adding AI and Unity and training simulations, I believe if we want to go ahead in the play or something, we'll have to put into coding because right now I believe Unity is supporting Python where you can have a lot of AI stuff involved in it. We have C++ as a code with Unreal. Again, we can put a lot of AI with C++ and integrate Python libraries also. So if you want to go step ahead in the future, then we'll have to get into the core coding part to build up things around it. By the time we have blueprints or visual scripting helping us building AI, it's going to be saturated.
Yes. Next question to you, Arunji. What are the key factors to consider when choosing an authoring tool for creating XR's training simulations?
Key factors, you need to know which devices you're going to build up for. Right now we need to understand what devices you're building for and accordingly build things from the scratch. Your UI and everything is going to depend on that. You have to keep in mind on those parameters of what devices, what interactions are going to be, and then your complete storyboard and logics go around it. But your interactions and device understanding is where initially you have to key in your detailing.
Anything you would like to add, Yukti, to this?
The choice of authoring tool, and here I think that by authoring tools, I hope you mean Unreal and Unity engines, right? uh, those are the most popular engines that you can work with for XR based development. That's a very popular ongoing, subject of debate, whether to choose Unity, whether to choose Unreal. I think I would try to stay away from that, and I think both are amazing tools. Certain parts in Unity have been developed further because it has one of the, in fact, the biggest market share when it comes to AR VR, especially mobile based AR VR. Current, I'm not saying about the future. I think in the future both will try to match up to each other in terms of performance. But currently, if mobile based or low computation based devices are the devices that you want to choose for your deployment, then Unity has optimized, has a lot of optimizations in place to have a smaller, uh, sized and more optimized experiences that you can play directly on the device. So Unity is the way to go when you have very less resources in terms of computation. Having said that, Unity still has to catch up in terms of the sheer beauty and realism that you can achieve very quickly with Unreal. So if AAA kind of quality is what you expect in your end training, and you want to achieve more realism and better lighting and better materials and textures and all of that, then Unreal is the way to go. And especially with the 5G in place and cloud-based streaming, which is upcoming, and streaming in place, where the end experience actually runs on some kind of server or PC. So computation is no more of a challenge, and you can view the streamed renders on your XR based devices, whether mobiles or your XR headsets. So with the streaming, the computation is offloaded to PCs, and that is where Unreal can shine, because even if you do not have very optimized, you can have very heavy computation experiences and still enjoy the beauty and the renders directly. So, and these all discussions are based on their current performances. I am very sure Unity will catch up in terms of realism that it can achieve. You can actually already do that quite a bit, but you have to put in a lot more implementation efforts to reach there, which are already done very easily. You can do in Unreal. And same way for Unreal, when it has a better market share for AR VR, I'm sure they will work towards better optimization as well. So just on the prima facie, I think those can be a simple criteria to choose between the two, and both can be amazing tools. There is, I don't think there is any third choice there which is at par.
Yes, rightly said. Now to you, Arunji. While keeping safety in mind, now let's talk about on ethical basis. So my question to you is, what are the ethical considerations one should keep in mind while designing XR training simulations, especially in sensitively or high-stake training simulations?
So mainly one of the key factors that I look at it is the training module shouldn't be too long. 10 minutes or 15 minutes is max what we range at one module, so that the user is not too engaged wearing the headset, especially for VR training. Mixed reality can be extended because it is still in the real environment, but that is the first optimum level, like the making the short courses modules for training. And rest is keeping lighting and all decent enough. It's too not too many lights that go to the eye and all. That becomes very odd for the user at that moment and difficult also to work around. So these are some things, having good textures around, which is gonna keep in the smooth environment and everything. These are few factors to work around.
Now over to you, Yukti. Could you please share your views when it comes to safety? Like, how do you ensure the safety of users trying XR training simulations?
Right. So it can be a very interesting topic. Actually, I was fortunate enough to be part of another discussion in which the policies, regarding XR were discussed in quite details, and it is very much related to that, because when you say safety, uh, we try to sell XR based trainings wherever safety is a concern, as in if the trainings, for example, like mining can be a very, for a new trainee, it can be a very unsafe environment to work in, so those conditions, and work with those machineries from the very first day. And XR based trainings can be a very safe way in which you can train in a similar environment with the same machines, and there will be no hazard there. Fire based trainings are very popular with XR, and very engaging, and very, has a great ROI there. But when you say safety inside VR, I think, Pooja, that is what you said. Uh, Actually, we do have to actually look at the negative sides of VR as well. When we talk about more and more realistic experiences, we have to understand there could be some health as well as physiological impacts of it. Health concerns already discussed by Arunji. There could be some eye strains and head and neck strains, and if it is a heavy headset, some of the headsets are quite heavy. So those could put in a lot of stress, and so keeping the training time in check is very important. But more than that, physiologically, impacts are also there. In fact, the studies show that if you make very realistic yet very violent kind of experiences in VR, you could be suffering from PTSD, like you were in real wars. So who takes the onus of such impacts on you? Whether it is the developer who creates those experiences, whether it is the platform maker who is giving you those tools, whether it is the headset creator who is giving you the tools, who takes the onus of all of that? So if you are in a VR space, suppose, and it's a shared space, metaverse that we are talking about, and somebody comes, the avatar comes right in front of you and point blank he shoots at you, right? You could be actually going through some kind of real psychological impact there. So again, like any other technology, we could be talking for years about some kind of policies and all of that, but it is about the use cases that we choose for ourselves. And that is why good thing about us, about this panel discussion is we are only centering our discussion around education and training and learning, which is again one of the biggest use cases of XR. So we are talking about use cases which are inherently very safe, and we are not talking about something in the wild. And in those scenarios, VR and XR will always be a safer alternative to any other ways of training. And we are not talking about gaming, so all the other aspects are automatically ruled around. But yes, we should be talking about those as well. As the technology is progressing, the mass adoption will increase. So yes, the privacy and other kind of psychological impacts and all those policies should also be discussed.
Yes, so for Arunji now, so let's discuss on the part of hardware and platform configuration. So how do hardware specifications and platform capabilities influence the design and development of XR training simulations?
Okay, so with the hardware, I believe all of you all know how many different hardwares right now we have in the market, right? From having a simple Oculus Quest to HTC Vive, HoloLens, and the topmost Varjo headset and all. We have Ajna Lens. So there's a wide variety of headsets that we have in the market. Each has their own tech specifications, each has their own role. So XR lenses like Ajna Lens and HoloLens are mixed reality headsets. So depending on the requirement, if we have some kind of training where you have to see the real environment and do the training module or something, then you pick up some mixed reality headset. Then depending on what kind of interactions you're going to use, are both these headsets supporting those kind of interactions? Gestures are supported or not? All these elements is going to be ticked in, and then we'll pick up the right hardware device which is required for the training simulation. Similarly, for a VR headset, same. If you what kind of quality you need, if you need like real realism and all, so you could go for something like the Quest Pro or HTC Vive Pro or Varjo, the best, which is available. And if you want something which is going to be more where just the task and the training is required, not more specific with the realism and all, so you could go with the lowest Quest and Quest 2 devices or something else. And there are simple devices like Daydream, the old devices where you have just the training videos, 360-degree videos. So we've done with one of our clients where one they required only a basic 360-degree video experience for their clients or for the exhibition. So they didn't require the VR headsets which were high end. Just a 360 video is supposed to play. So depending on these kinds of requirements, we'll have to pick up what device goes perfect with our final deployment.
Fiji, if you would like to share your insights on this.
Yeah, so hardware does play a very important role in the overall, uh, overall development and how the entire experience is centered. Of course, it is driven a lot by the customer requirement, client requirement, final objective of the XR experience. And based on that, the choice of hardware becomes very important. Um, there are no, I would not say a lot of headsets, but yeah, a handful of headsets out there in the market. And you, as rightly said, it depends what kind of experiences are required. If it is only a VR based experience that is required, then probably buying an XR headset might be an overkill. 360 wherever suffices. It could be a very low cost affair to take a Daydream headset directly. If it is about having the flexibility of sometimes using AR, sometimes using VR, choosing between the two, switching between the two. Some of the training requirements, in fact, are you can start with VR simulation where the entire environment is virtual and you are training there. And as you progress stage by stage, you, for example, a submarine engineer, and you're training them. So you, as in the on the very first day of your training, you would not actually have the entitlement to go into a submarine, right? So for the first few stages, you would be in a complete VR based setup, still like the submarine, and you would be training there. And once you cross certain stage, the same maybe in stage 4, stage 5, stage 6, you might switch the same headset to an MR mode and go into an actual submarine, and there you would get some guided instructions on top of your real equipment, and you could be training on real equipment right then and there. HoloLens, in fact, was the pioneer in such enterprise guided based trainings, which is mixed reality but guided trainings. So many of the training requirements would actually would be needing such kind of switch from VR to AR in real life training. So their XR based headsets like HoloLens, like MetaQuest Pro, all of these would shine, because the same headset can be actually very easily be switched between VR and MR. And these two headsets, Vario is a totally different category. Their biggest USP is that they have the biggest display, and they are into hyper realism. The experiences have to be hyper realistic, and they do not really care about any kind of optimizations. Why? Because they have the highest resolution display. So for them, their end use case are also very niche. I think they are working a lot in the Air Force trainings and related trainings like that. So if it is a more wider customer based training, then XR based headsets could be for a developer, and a developer content creation company could be a better investment. So because they give the flexibility to change between VR, AR, and MR. They have a lot of sensors on board, so you can be working with a lot of AI based technologies when it comes to depth estimation, hand tracking, eye tracking, taking a lot of analytics from there. So such kind of headsets would be a better bet in those cases.
So next question is to you as well. Since we all are working in an organization which is into this XR field, so what do you think are the challenges that these organizations commonly face when implementing XR training simulations? And how do one overcome these challenges?
So, just to rephrase, you are asking about the challenges that most of the content creators and content creation companies face in creation of XR trainings, right?
Yes, yes.
Uh, yeah, I think my answer has changed in the last 1 or 2 years in this aspect. I think the biggest challenge, maybe 1 or 2 years back, was non-standardization of the tech stack. Um, uh, you know, Creation of a 3D experience is not a simple task. It's a very lengthy task. It is still, even with a lot of AI in place, it is still a very manually intensive task. So if I am a content creator, I take in all the requirements and I make an amazing content. I would want this content to work on more than one headset and for more than one client, because I would put a lot of months into that, right? And this was not easy to do a few years back, because everyone would be coming up with their own SDKs. Everyone would have some differences in the hardware, some differences in the platform. And that is why the porting from one headset to the other was in itself a big challenge. So most of the experiences were very headset centric. If it was made for HTC, it would only be working on HTC, something like that. Thanks to OpenXR based standardization, now most of the headsets and headset companies have accepted the standard and already support OpenXR. So that thing is resolved. So that is why I said my answer has changed in the last 1 or 2 years, because most of the companies, including Ajna, we all support OpenXR. So as a content creator, as long as you create things with OpenXR APIs, they should work on most of the headsets. But other than that, there are other standardizations as well that are needed for making a life of a content creator easier. and I would say the process itself. Um, as Arunji said in his earlier answer about storyboarding, how an animator would actually sketch out and then go on to make an experience, I think the process itself is not very standardized, and hence there is also not a lot of quality standards that you can benchmark with, because everybody is making the experiences in their own way according to their liking. So I would say if the process is also more standardized, the content would be of higher quality, and it would make lives easier for all the content creators. For example, you should be starting with some kind of um, taking all the requirements from the clients. Then you should be actually talking to the SMEs or subject matter experts. This is very important for training simulations, because if you are going to make some kind of skilling based trainings, then without having inputs from the subject matter experts who know actually how those skills are performed, you as a developer would not know what you are making and how it. So the training would, there would be a very fine line between training becoming just any other game or be actually a training. So this is SME based inputs that are needed. And after that, not just storyboarding is how you make a mental or a sketch based or some kind of visual way in which you sketch out all the levels, all the different scenes, and how the story would go and how the trading would occur and things like that. You should also be making some kind of mood board as in the themes, the UX, the front end, what assets would go. I would always recommend to collect all the assets beforehand based on the story, so that you are not. So creation of the assets should happen before you jump into any kind of integration. And once you have all of the assets, all the even some kind of animations also already done, that is when the actual implementation and integration should happen. So the process standardization is also something that I feel.
Yes, over to you, Arunji.
Yeah, completely agree with Yukti's points. Uh, Fortunately, I didn't have much of an issue with the SDKs earlier because I used to earlier itself tell my clients like this is the right output device that is going to be good for your training. So I don't jump around with my SDKs during the development or post development. But yeah, one of the major points where Yukti mentioned of the knowledge transfer from SMEs, that is one of the biggest challenges still because if we go to a medical manufacturing company or a manufacturing simple automotive company, they have some specific processes around it for every part or something. We need to understand the whole process, every single thing around it. So what happens is a lot of these companies are not comfortable sharing everything because of their policies or whatever. They cannot give the CAD files out. So they ask us to take the photographs and create a 3D model around it. But obviously there are a lot of minute details inside the model or something which is required in the training. So which is not there during the photography or something. So all that knowledge transfer is one of the biggest challenge and time consuming part during the development. Once we have the whole details, life becomes pretty much easy if the knowledge transfer is done completely well. That is one of the biggest challenges of what I see.
Yes, right. So if audience has any questions, they can put it in the chat box, and then we'll take those questions till the end of the session. So next question, as we are nearing the end of the session, my last question to both of our panelists is, what are the best practices or tips you can offer to individuals or teams that are embarking on a journey of creating XR training simulation projects using these authoring tools?
So best practices, I would say, go ahead with creating a process, standard process for yourself. Whatever you feel comfortable, what you feel is good. Like if you ask me, I'd say create, understand the whole process, create a storyboard, iterate it 100 times till you feel like you have not missed out anything. Then start with creating all the assets, the environment, the mood board, as Yukti mentioned. Create all those things and then start building the development of POCs or prototypes around it. That is the best way keeping the process around it. And keep practicing, keep practicing. That's the best option because it's something where, like animation or programming, you need to practice more and more to give the best output of.
Yes, Yuktiji, anything you would like to add to it?
Yeah, I think Yeah, I covered half of the best practices that I could offer already in the last question. So yeah, getting the right requirements from the client, understanding, and there is sometimes a problem of misinterpretations of the objectives of certain training. So I think we many a times developers go wrong on the very first step. They miss the objective. What do you want to achieve at the end of training? So writing the right problem statement in front of the client, getting a sign off almost what you want to expect at the end of the training simulation. That is very important, getting the right inputs from the subject matter experts. um, I think AI is progressing, and there are certain existing procedures to make the asset creation, which is, I think, the most tedious task. So, asset creation, of course, AI will progress more, but there are already some existing tools with which some 3D assets, even animations and character creations can be done. They can actually help. So those could be some tips for all the new developers from my side. They are not very commercial and popular right now, but yeah, some of them are there, which are like Luma.ai, that's making waves right now. It's everywhere around us. So just with a couple of images, you could scan and make 3D meshes, not just scans, but 3D meshes out of it. So those will make lives easier for asset creation. And once you have the asset there, you have the storyboard, your level design is in place, you know how the story will flow from scene to scene. That is when the actual integration and implementation should start. Before that, I already discussed, based on what is the end device that you have chosen, you can also choose now the whether, after the storyboard, you can choose whether you want to go with Unity or Unreal. If it is more of a optimized and on mobile based AR VR, or something that you want to run on the device itself, and optimizations are the key things, then go with Unity, I would say. If realism is all that you want, computation is not much of an issue, and streaming is something that your headset and your customers will be okay to use, then go for Unreal, I would say. And once you have these choices made, that is when the logic can be made easily. And have the right team with you, and stick to deadlines, I think, because practically I've seen deadlines for the timelines for the commercial training simulations creations can extend quite a bit, with a lot of iterations between clients, developers, prototypers, and designers. So having the storyboard sign off, and that these all things help. So these are my tips to all the emerging developers who would want to now step from the student and early developer category to an end developer in a commercial setup, to work with deadlines with proper sign-offs in place, so as to make your lives easier. And of course, final test cases and deployment based optimizations, those are some very high end skills that many developers lack. The deployment based optimizations based on the devices, or you could be developing quite a bit, but the end optimizations are a very important aspect, and that skill is very sought after skill. So those things, if we can learn on those, will really help.
Yes, as we are near the end of our session, we are now open to questions from our audience. You can either put it in the chat box or unmute and speak. So we have one question in the chat box. Is there a certain path you would suggest to become an XR developer? I have just started out with Unreal Engine. Anyone of you would like to take this question?
uh, if you have already started out with Unreal Engine, I think I do not know if you already are an ACP student or not, but yeah, ACP Ajna Creative Program already is a good course to begin with. It is a very beginner friendly course, and by the end of it, it is a comparatively a long course. By the end of it, you will have quite a good grasp on the entirety of Unreal based XR development. um, uh, other things, about the path of an XR developer, I wish there was a very, well edged out path for an XR developer, but there is not. So it is all about persistence and practice and believing that, if you have chosen for yourself XR based technology as a career, then you have to believe that it is already there. It is not an upcoming or a future technology, that the jobs are not there. Do not have these doubts in your head. It is an already existing, very well sought after. Even Indian government is, asking for so many XR based trainings. There are so many tenders there. The demand is there. So do not have any doubts just because this is how your social media works. Just because you are not searching enough for XR, you are not just coming across a lot of XR news. Start searching for it. You will be surrounded by all the news around XR. So there are, countries investing so much into XR. There are ministries being made in Middle East around XR. There are XR-based virtual educational institutes being made, flourished, working there. So XR is already there. Do not doubt about your, career prospects if you choose XR as your, as a path to go. So there are uh, a lot of opportunities there. And like any other career path, as a developer, you keep practicing on your skills, individual skills, keep following the trends, how the market is going, what skills the market requires, keep updating yourself, and you should be good to go.
Yes, so next question is, I think we have two questions related to this. So, what are the roles and opportunities available in the market? So far, there are designers and coders.
So there are a lot of rules around with XR development, not only for designers and coders. So there's also like business analysts, or there are roles for metaverse business analysts where they need to understand the client requirements and everything. Then the designers who are going to build the storyboard and everything. There are 3D designers, asset creators. There are shader creators, which are specific shader creators only work on shader coding to work and build for Unity or Unreal, and the developers around it. There are deployment team that is works completely on the deployment part with these headsets and everything. As one of the questions earlier one has mentioned, what is metaverse architect? So metaverse architect is somebody who's gonna plan out the complete project around it, right from understanding what elements or what modules are gonna be built, how it's gonna be the flow diagram, how it's gonna be. That is what a metaverse architect is gonna work around. And it's not only involving only creating with XR part. Metaverse architect has to understand NFTs, blockchain, and also because that everything gets involved in the metaverse.
Yes, actually, that was my next question to you, but I think you answered it about a role called as Metaverse Architect.
I would like to add something here, because there are some pretty interesting job roles that I am at least seeing in my circle and in my job fields. And also, you would think that only designers and coders and some, there are very limited opportunities. I have seen very, minute or very niche kind of roles that are coming up now, which are all related to XR. For example, there are designers, certain specific avatar designers who are coming up. There are avatar clothing designers. So not just avatars, but you could be creating just the clothing for the avatars in metaverse and XR space. You could be lighting artist and a lighting based coder as well, who can optimize lightings and optimize the entire code for having the best kind of lighting scenarios. There are texture based designers as well as coders. Of course, there are shader based expertise kind of expert level coders there. So it depends on your skill set. You could be starting out on a very basic level, just like a Unity or Unreal developer, but with proper skilling, you could find your niche. You could be only working with physics. You could be only working with animations. You could be only working with certain kind of technology which is out there with like Lumen and nanite based technologies. So all of this depends on what is your niche and what is your liking. And like any other kind of engineering, you could be starting from a very basic general level, and you could find your niche and you could work towards that. So all of those roles do exist. The jobs are there. It depends on you. What are you looking for?
So for freshers, how to get an opportunity on to work on such XR trading simulation projects?
Abhijit, if you could actually go in and search for internships for these companies who work in XR domain, you'll get a lot of opportunity over there on working such projects, which will be very helpful, which will be working on live projects. You'll understand the live environment in the company. That's where you could find good market to work on.
Next is in VR, AR, and XR, which area is more upcoming in the market, or more to say latest in the market?
I think, there is no clear say. You could debate about that all day long. People would take up sides, what is an upcoming area. I think all are interrelated, and with the term XR, making rounds. XR means it is an umbrella term for VR, AR, and MR. So all three technologies are encompassed in that in that one term. I also mean the same when I say XR technologies. So I think it is best for us not to choose between VR, AR, and MR, single one, because there are areas where still VR would be the best way to go. As I said, when you want to make a realistic, initial base training simulation, and if it is a hazardous setting and you want to train in those, then MR would not come in the picture. VR only will shine there. And when you want to have hands-on, on-site training and things like that, that is where AR and MR will come into picture. So everything will have their role even in the longer time to come. So nothing will go extinct. Even if people are saying AR and MR are the way to go ahead, no, I don't think VR will be there. The simulations, because VR started the entire thing and it is here to stay. So yeah, just let's just train on XR. Let's not choose between any of the three. So all three have their own scope.
Arunji, would you like to add to it anything?
No, completely same. Like the XR opportunities are all there. Don't discriminate between VR, AR, or MR. They're all gonna be there. All they have their niche requirements. They will be there. So work on whichever you are comfortable with.
Sure, I think we can end our session. So again, I would like to thank to both of our panelists, Arunji and Riktiji. Thank you for taking your time and giving us such valuable insights. And lastly, thank you to all the participants for being engaged and asking a lot of questions. And thank you for joining in to all the participants. I hope you got a lot of knowledge and insights. So I think we can end the session. Thank you for joining in all of you. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskaram.